You need a ratchet, an extension, an 8mm, a 10mm, and a pair of pliers. We got our new carb, our new gasket, and our new O-ring.
What's this lawnmower called?
Toro lawnmower. So it starts and it shuts off after about 5 seconds. Usually if you let your lawnmower sit the 2 or 3 months that we don't mow down here, when you go to start it up, it'll do this to you because the fuel went bad inside the carburetor. So there's 3 8mm bolts in here, 1, 2, 3, holding on the air filter. So we're gonna take these off, and behind there is gonna be your carburetor. Once we get the cover off, we'll take the fuel line off and we'll drain out the old gas. We'll get the carburetor off, and then we will change the O-ring that sits behind it and put everything back on. It's pretty quick, it's pretty easy. There's nothing really fancy to it. I like to kind of put all my stuff here to the side. That way there I know where all my stuff is going back. So this is your carburetor. This is your fuel line coming from the tank to the carburetor. And again, we're just gonna take this like little hose clamp off right here. Pull it backward off the little nipple to the carburetor. Sometimes if you turn it before you pull it, it'll come off a little bit easier. I usually take an old gas can, stick it in there, and then let it drain in there. This is all the old gas. You don't want to reuse the old gas because if it does run, it might not run the best. So again, just the easiest thing is to stick it into an old gas can. Up in here, you'll have 2 10mm. I'm gonna try to get my fingers out of the way. There's one here, and there's one on the other side. And then there's a small linkage at the top that I'll show you once I get the carburetor unbolted. About the time, depending on how much gas you have in there, about the time that you get all this unbolted and the new one ready, then your gas is done draining. I've had it happen a million times. The thing will flick out and either get gas in your eye or in your mouth, so just make sure you're paying attention to that when you're doing your thing, because nobody likes gas in their eye or in their mouth. So we got our 2 bolts out. Here's that little linkage I was talking about. A spring goes to the front and then the linkage goes to the back. All it is just like a little 90-degree hook that hooks onto it. This is the new carburetor. Obviously it's gonna go on like this, the same way. That little linkage goes in and then you just kind of turn it and puts it in place. When you're doing it, make sure you change this little O-ring on the back side. A lot of people don't do that. Sometimes they can get smushed down. Like that one is pretty flat. And then this new one is round. You wanna make sure it's nice and round. That way there it's making a good seal. Stick it there on the back where it came off of. Take your new carburetor. Again, your little linkage is here. Put it in the hole and then just turn it and set it back in place. Now we're just gonna do the opposite of what we did before. 2 10mm go on to hold the carburetor in place. Always start your bolts first by hand. That way there you're not doing it with the ratchet, because if you cross thread them, then that is not gonna be good for you later on or the next person that has to take them off. So start them by hand and then tighten them down with your ratchet or whatever you're working with. And like I said, about that time that you're done with this part, your old fuel has drained out. And you can connect your fuel line back. Put your hose clamp back. And on the back of here, which this one didn't have before, this little gasket goes on to here. Oop. Wait a minute. There we go. Goes onto there. Make sure this one's on there in place as well. Sometimes, that's what happened. Sometimes they get stuck to the old carburetor. When you peel them off, they fall apart, so make sure you put a new one. This little nipple is gonna go inside of this guy, and then your 3 8mm bolts are gonna go on. Again, start them by hand and then use your ratchet or whatever you're using to put them into place. I like to start with the front one, just kind of holds it up in place. And then I go to the back one. And then I do the bottom one. Doesn't really matter the order that you do it, as long as they're all in and they're all in place. That's all that matters. Tighten everything down. I'm looking at that air filter and I think I got a new one over on top of the toolbox. I'm gonna throw that in as well just while I'm in here. That way there I got a nice fresh air filter. I got my fuel tank cleaned out. And she will be good to go. New air filter. These 3 ears just go into here. Put your air filter in, line your 3 ears up, push it up, and put it down. Put some fresh gas in it. Prime your primer. On this one's got a primer. I don't know, it says 3 times. I kind of push it 5, 6 times. Pull your handle. And pull your